So it's like a keeping busy to avoid having to look.
Well, and part of the keeping busy is in order to protect myself. It's a busy business to, there's stuff happening in life all the time. New sensations, new feelings, new attractions, new aversions all the time. So I have to keep my eye out all the time, most of the time. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
But that's the normal way. Oh, what's that mean? What's that? What's that? Why did I think that? What? I don't think I need to understand better. I don't understand. I got to figure this out. I'm okay. Don't worry about it. But in the meantime, and that's the way we live our lives.
I mean, I've maybe been lucky. I don't know, but most of my life, I've had a tremendous love for life, and I've seen the beauty.
Yeah. Well, you're an exception.
But there's been the main challenge within that are on the days where I have to deal with anger, because some days that's the feeling that's there and it's very intense. And so along with this love for life and recognizing the beauty and the gift, there's also been this steady confrontation with my own rage that seems like something ignites it, and I've had to deal with that, and I still have to look at that when it percolates.
Yes, and I would suggest that rage is precisely the same source. It comes from the same source. It's the same thing. It's like fear and rage are very similar to one another. It's not uncommon in human history and in human reflection on the human experience to rage against life. Mm-hmm. It's part of the underlying assumption that there's something wrong with life. Why should life be this way? Mm-hmm. Why should I be caught in this life like this? Why should I be caught trapped in this body with the certainty of my death, when I have all of this wonder, all of this beauty, all of this intelligence, and all of this consciousness? Why? And that's,
as if it's a punishment.
Yes, it must be a punishment. And it's also true that for almost all of our history, there's never been a time when there hasn't been present a metaphysical position that holds that there's some adversarial entity somewhere. Call it Satan, call it original sin, call it whatever you want to call it, right? But that there's some adversarial entity that must be watched out for, which rages.
And as children, we are told that.
That's right, and we're told that we're told that because over the tens of thousands of years that human beings have actually been conscious enough to even consider these things, right? We've been around for longer than that, but we haven't been conscious enough to think about these things for that long. But over all that time, because in order to explain this inexplicable, seemingly stupid, antagonistic relationship between me and my life, the answer that comes to mind is not there's something wrong with me, although that often is resorted to. There's something wrong with me, but a more useful answer is that there's something out there that wants to get me, or that is polluting life itself, or is corrupting the experience of human life, or that for some reason or other I have been afflicted with a fault, a flaw that was none of my doing, and that came from somebody else's wrongdoing, and these are all relationships with this underlying dissatisfaction with life. Why should it be so? Why should it be so that I shouldn't just love life without the arising of rage from time to time? So, and I think that, well, I know that this works. And really, that's why I want to do the act first before I talk about it, is because it works. And I know it works. We have a lot of, it's amazing. It still surprises me. It takes me by surprise how effective this is. And
like the reports you get are like practical.
That's right.
Day to day.
That's right.
This is affecting my day to day life.
That's right.
More content.
That's exactly right. That's the difference.
Less conflict, less whatever it is that probably causes us to begin looking for truth in the first place.
That's right.
You know.
It's gone. And that's exactly the kind of reports. You should go to our website, to the community center, the forum center.
Mm-hmm.
They are amazing. They surprise me every time I look at the postings that come in, because they're all exactly what you're speaking of. Practical matters about how my relationship with my life has changed. My relationship with my wife, my relationship with my children, my relationship with my work, how it's changed. And precious little of any kind of, ethereal sort of reports. Precious little of that. That's what's so surprising about it.
So it must be working.
It is.
And I noticed from the interview with Rick that if it's someone that has a big background in spirituality and has a lot of knowledge, then maybe there's more skepticism or more conditioning to kind of say, no, I'm just going to stay with whatever it is I've been doing.
That can happen. But people who are afflicted with a spiritual mindset, which I was one. I'm not speaking of others as
your own experience.
Yeah, afflicted with the spiritual consciousness and so forth. It can be very difficult for them to hear this. But the good news is that it really doesn't matter, because if they just try the act, it seems like it just has to succeed. And it also is my growing experience that if I can suggest the act just cleanly and clearly enough before any discussion of any other stuff, that people automatically try it. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's not.
And then we're in the taste and not the theory.
That's right. Exactly. And I will say that our entire history of spiritual investigation has been driven by this, and the cases in which there have been folks who have clearly lost the fear and clearly have returned to what is called by some and by me the natural state, which, strangely enough, in the spiritual realm, that's become a very ethereal
samadhi.
Right. But when we return to the natural state, that the spiritual, like this happened when I was still in prison, and I had gone through, I had a long history of spiritual seeking and spiritual aspiration. And I went through about 1.5 years of what I now call my so-called enlightenment, when I was in a state of pretty constant, I'd have to say bliss. Few people know bliss isn't what it sounds like, but I'd have to say bliss. And then circumstances, the natural arising of cause and effect in life, created circumstances in which that went away and left me bereft and tormented and almost going insane. And although it had left me disappointed and disenchanted with the spiritual aspiration, it left me still with this yearning, with this sense that there's got to be something to do. There's got to be some way to make life live up to its promise.